Welcome to A Court of Fairies and Fangirls. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is a Sarah J. Maas fan podcast where we are obsessed with her books and can't stop thinking about them or talking about them. So we figured, why not record us thinking and talking about it?
We're going to break down chapters, go through each book separately, go into character analysis and any thoughts or kind of theories that we have about books, characters, plots, etc.
And maybe play some fun games along the way.
Exactly.
So welcome and enjoy.
Welcome back, A Court of Mist and Fury.
Woo! We are episode 3.
Yes, chapters 8 through 12.
And we're calling this episode The Turning Point.
Oh, yes, it so is. It so is.
When I was preparing for this episode,
yes,
I was so mad. Like these chapters just made me so mad. Like I have no other like feeling to like summarize with. Like I finished of course at like 10:30 at night.
Of course.
And then I was like, how am I supposed to go to bed?
Yeah.
After finishing these chapters. And the whole stopping part sucks. I need to keep reading.
I know.
But what were your initial feelings?
I wasn't as mad rereading this because this is the third time I'm reading this book.
Right.
I wasn't as mad as obviously the first time because I knew kind of what to expect.
Yep.
But I just, like, I forgot how different she's treated at the night court versus the spring court. And, like, I really just forgot how much she was suffering internally and, like, how it's just kind of overlooked and brushed off. Mm-hmm. So that really just, it brought it all back. And I was like,
I agree.
Yeah, now I remember why I hated this part so much. Like, hated Tamlin so much in this.
Exactly. And it's hard to read this, before we dig in deep, it's hard to read these chapters, too, because we just so recently dug so deep into their love, into A Court of Thorns and Roses. And we went, like, you and I were, like, notating it, breaking it down, right? So it's, like, it's so hard to see this transition. Like, it's heartbreaking to see how he has evolved from someone who, like, celebrated her warrior nature to being, like, way overly protective. Yeah. So it's just, like...
But I do think maybe part of the reason why I wasn't as mad this time reading it through is because we did such a deep dive into the first book, and I really understood Tamlin a lot more as, like, this protector, and, like, really, like, we emotionally went into what he was going through, whereas before I never really cared so much what he went through. Yeah. It was more what Pharaoh was going through, and so when I was reading this, I still, in the back of my head, I'm like, Tamlin's been through so much, like, he needs to have just, like, some... you know, just like a little, like, not be as hateful towards him as I have been in the past. Yeah. So.
No, I'm still just as mad, but there's a layer of sadness on top of it.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it is. It's not just all hate. There's, like, other feelings attached to it.
Yeah.
So,
Chapter 8?
Chapter 8.
All right. I whipped out the cranky stickers again.
Ooh.
So this one's a cranky summary.
Okay.
I put, the tithe begins. Pharaoh's heart of empathy puts her in a tense situation, but also grants her a new friend. Chapter 8.
Chapter 8.
What were your first thoughts?
Just initially, she spends one day with Tamlin.
Yep.
And then he's gone.
I put, he's gone?
I was like, wait a second. You were just, like, gone for a week at the night court.
Yep.
Taken away from your wedding. Mm-hmm. You spend one day with the man that lost his mind that you were being taken away. Mm-hmm. He stays for one day and then he leaves you.
I know.
He only gets you for 3 weeks a month. Like, it's different now. It's not where, you're just always going to be there.
Yep.
You get her for 3 weeks at a time and then she's taken. Wouldn't you want to make, like, use of that time? Why can't you travel on your off week?
I know.
Like, that's when you should be gone.
Yeah. I don't know if, like, the dangers of Prithian are caring about his schedule, but I agree with you. I was just like, you're gone that soon?
I know.
But she's so understanding of it. Like, she even says, I tried not to take it personally, not when he had so much on his shoulders, even if he wouldn't tell me much about it. And I was like... She is so dang understanding.
She really is.
I would not be. Mm-hmm. I would take it personally.
I know.
Oh, this poor girl. And so she's just kind of like, existing until he comes back for the tithe.
Yeah.
Which, again, when we talk about this court, it's very traditionalist.
Right.
And we really see that play out here.
And, like, just before that, because I believe she's hanging out. No, you're good. I think she's hanging out with Ianthe while Tamlin's gone, basically. And she's thinking that it had been an effort not to look at the eye tattooed in my palm to remember what Reese had snarled at me about, like, because she basically is, like, accepting that she doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
Because everybody else just does it for her. She's like, Tamlin goes out and does stuff, and I'm okay not knowing.
Yeah.
Like, just thinking to herself, and Ianthe takes care of everything here. And I'm just like, oh, it's fine. But
his words really made an impact on her.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like you have that constant reminder of literally every time you look at your left hand. Yeah. You have
the words he said.
You're just going to be reminded of that.
That's so true.
So, I don't know.
But so we move into the tithe. And it's very reminiscent to me of, like, olden times when you have, like, a king and the people come.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like, they've got, like, the receiving room.
Yep.
It's like people just line up and bring, like, whatever, chickens, gold, whatever they need. But I was like, what is the tithe based on?
Yeah.
Like, I
was wondering that too. I was like, clearly it is some, like, percentage-based type thing because it's different for different people.
Right.
But, like, how do you determine that in this world?
Especially the past 50 years, everybody's been locked up. So I'm like, what are you basing this off of? It's not like people have grown crops and you're getting 10% of their crops or whatever. Nobody's been working. Everybody's been under the mountain or in these, like, enslavement camps or whatever. So, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I still think 3 months is way too soon to be doing a tithe after Under the Mountain because people are still trying to get their lives in order.
I totally agree.
But, you know, it is what it is. So.
And then a water wraith shows up.
Yep.
And can't pay her tithe. And Tamlin gets intense. He's very merciless.
Yes. Which, again, I understand because, especially because this is the first tithe he's done in, 50 years.
Yeah, in a way, but I also feel like since it's the first tithe he's done in 50 years, we should maybe give people a little bit of grace in completing the tithe since it's only been the 3 months.
But to him, it's like he's already pushed it off 1 month.
Yep.
So to him, he probably thinks, well, I gave them a month. And I get it. It's like you can't be lenient with one person because then everybody's going to want the same treatment. So I get it, but
I mean, I think Farrah makes a good point. I can't remember exactly when she says it, but she says something along the lines of, like, we don't need this.
Right.
Like, why are we even doing this?
Right.
Which, not that I understand how one runs an estate.
Right.
But I think it's a fair question.
I think so, too. But then again, it's like, well, if they didn't pay their tithe, then nobody's going to pay the tithe, and then it's like the whole estate would crumble. Like, I do understand that concept. But it's like maybe one of those things, it's like you could talk to them in private afterwards and just be like, what can we do? Like, try to work with them a little bit.
Well, and that's what Feyre kind of does, is she's like, why make her starve? Why not help her replenish the pond?
Right.
Which I think is, like, a really interesting perspective for rulers. Like, I feel like people who, take ownership of and this comes from, my years of watching, like, British TV and Downton Abbey and The Tudors and whatever.
Right.
But I feel like leaders that take an interest in giving to their people get more from their people.
For sure.
And so, when a ruler's just, like, demanding things, their people get exhausted and drained. And it's like, but if you're like, hey, it's the teach a man to fish thing. It's like, I'm not just going to take the fish. I'm going to teach this person how to do that or help replenish these resources so that they can be more fruitful and then thus give back to us. Like, I think that's a different perspective than just, like, what Tamlin's used to. But I thought it was a really good idea and a good, like, perspective that she brings to this table if she's to, like, rule beside him.
I definitely agree. The only thing I will say is that we obviously are not part of Prythian. We don't know the fairies because everyone seems to have the same kind of response to this water wraith type fairy. It's like people are guarding all their jewels. Like,
they don't like them at all.
No, like Ianthe, she, like, puts her hand on her, like, jeweled belt, so it's like as if, like, this person was just gonna reach over and grab it off of her, and like everybody
do.
Everybody's the same kind of reaction. So I was like, well, maybe they know something that we don't, because I mean, they do say that they're gluttons, basically. They'll eat whatever. They're always going to be out of fish because they're always going to eat everything in sight, kind of thing. So, again, it's like, I get it, but as humans, we're like, oh, like, you should try. And I'm sure over the past thousands of years, people have probably tried with this specific type of fairy.
I think it's interesting, though, that they've talked about her and act like they're monsters.
Right.
But you don't have actual monsters paying you a tithe.
No.
Like, the Naga are not here paying a tithe.
Right.
So it's like, part of me is like, okay, clearly there's been some weird animosity here. But also, like, she's still a member of your court.
Right, yeah.
Like, why? Like, I don't know. It's just this weird juxtaposition. I'm like, why are you treating her like a monster when she's a member of your court?
Right.
You know?
But, so basically, they tell her she has, what, like 3 days to come
I
up
think
with it.
so.
Otherwise, like, the next tithe, it's, like, doubled.
Yeah.
Basically, and she just kind of leaves. But Farrah just, she can't handle this. And I was like, it's just, like, a reminder that
her heart.
She still has a human heart. Like, it's so clearly visible right now that she has a human heart. She goes after her, and, like, she obviously has, like, all these onlookers. The guards are watching her, and she just takes off all of her jewelry. Just gives it to her, and she's like, I don't want anything in return. Like, literally just use this to buy fish for your pond. I was like, that's so nice.
She is. She, like, we talked about this on a mini about how she's a Hufflepuff, and this just, like, gave me big Hufflepuff feels.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so interesting how, like, shocked the Wraith was.
Yes.
And it's like, she's, to your point, she's been treated so unkindly by people, whether she deserved it or not, based off of, like, past circumstances, that I think someone just being nice to her, she's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
And especially in the fairy realm, everything comes with a price,
as
we've learned. So for somebody to say, I want nothing, like, this is literally, I'm just giving it to you. I wouldn't be able to comprehend that. And the Wraith even says, like, we will not forget this. Like, not me, not my sisters. We will not forget this. And I was like, well, I mean, that's nice because, who would forget something like that when somebody's truly just saying, no, take it. Like, I don't want anything in return.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so the day continues, and eventually they're at dinner. And Tamlin is none too happy with Farrah.
No.
He's got a little bit of an attitude.
But we get to the root cause, really, of Farrah's decision to help this Wraith. Basically, she just sees herself and her sisters in, this Wraith, and, like, how she was starved and how her sisters were starving and how this Wraith and her sisters are starving. And she doesn't think Tamlin understands, like, what she suffered or what, like, this fairy is suffering with, which is true. I mean, he's never gone without.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, I feel like it's like a news flash, reality flash for him. And for her, it's just, it's like so real. It's like bringing back all these memories of what human life was like. And she wasn't able to do anything about it then, but she can now. So she wants to.
I also appreciated that she had some fire again for a moment. Because we know Tamlin has a temper.
Right.
And we see that more in this reading, like, my gosh.
Yep.
But he clearly is getting mad at her, right? It has, like, his lips thinning, and he's saying, because you undermine the laws of this court. And they're using that, like, italics for intensity. But she, like, kind of cuts him off. Like, she tells him, like, don't you talk to me like that. You have no idea. And she's, like, she is pushing against him while everyone else is just constantly cowering to him. And so it's nice to see some fire in her for a moment, even if it's, like, connected back to this, like, historic trauma for her. I feel like she's just been, like, a ghost, and so I don't know, just seeing that fire made me happy.
And, like, I like that Lucian was on her side about it. Like, he's trying to calm Tamlin down. He's like, she meant no harm, which is true. She didn't. Like, she was genuinely just trying to help. So I like that Lucian, he sees what Farrah is doing and sees it for the value of what she's doing.
Yeah.
So.
But during that, Farrah slips into Lucian's mind.
I was like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
She was practicing with Reese for a week, maybe?
Well, she was just practicing, like, putting the walls.
Right.
And she now slipped into someone's mind.
No, it was crazy. And she said, it was a pattern of thinking and feeling that was old and clever and sad. So endlessly sad and guilt-ridden. Hopeless. It, like, broke my heart because I love Lucian.
I do too.
And I mean, we know his trauma of what he went through with the fairy that he loved and his brothers and his dad and then everything under the mountain with him too. And he's just, I love him. He's so light and happy and funny, and to know that he's just putting on this mask all the time, constantly.
I know.
It makes me so sad for him.
It is heartbreaking. That description was just like...
It's like, no, you don't want anyone's mind to be just so hopeless and guilt-ridden and endlessly sad.
Yeah.
So But, I mean, I was impressed that, like, Farrah did that, and she's, like, probably shocked as well.
I mean,
like,
she was shocked. But so she just kind of, like... I think that frustration and the argument caused her to be like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm going to bed. Mm-hmm. Which, again, a little bit of that fire. Tamlin said, we're not finished with this meal. And she goes, oh, get over yourself. And I was like... I don't like to see them fight. Like, I don't like that. But no. I'm like... I like to see the fire.
I'm just glad she has a spark again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
And when she goes to leave, she thinks that she sees handprints burned onto the table.
Which is a, like...
I was like, whoa. Like,
whoa.
More powers? Like, what?
She's... I mean... Yeah. We're slowly seeing these between... Right. What have we seen? So we saw the fire right here. Mm-hmm. We saw...
The mind.
We saw... I feel like we've seen another one already.
I don't know if we saw it already, if we're about to in another chapter that I think we read it in the next chapter.
But so, regardless, we're starting to see some of these powers.
We've seen her strength. That's what we've seen. Her, like, bending all the silverware.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking of. Super strength.
Yeah. But we do see another one, I think, in maybe the next chapter with the shape-shifting.
Oh, yeah.
So.
But, yeah, this section shows a lot of those powers.
Yeah.
There's a shape-shifting, there's the wind, there's the darkness. There's a lot in these chapters.
Yeah.
Woo. Okay.
So that was chapter 8. So.
All right, yeah, they end the evening cranky with each other.
Yes.
All right. Chapter 9?
Mm-hmm.
So this chapter, this is going to sound controversial. I've made it an In My Feel sticker.
Okay.
Because I feel very proud of Feyre.
Okay.
In this chapter. So there we go. Mm-hmm. I put, Feyre seeks out Tamlin to share how she feels.
I can go with, I can understand that. I can understand it in my feels.
When I look at my feeling options I've made,
yes,
it just was the one that fit the best.
It does. Yeah, I see that.
So, what's going on? First thoughts.
Let's see. On this one, so I know she's talking with Alice.
Yes.
In the beginning. And Alice is kind of, like, bringing up what she did with the Wraith Fairy, which is, like, well, clearly news has spread. And kind of to reiterate that, Alice says, too many fairies have tasted hunger these past 50 years. Don't think word of this won't spread.
Yeah.
I was like, but is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
Because Alice is, you know, that Mrs. Potts figure where she's always kind of, like, looking over Feyre, has helped her with stuff. And I can't tell if this is, like, I'm mad at you for doing this, like, word's gonna spread negatively about Tamlin's court, or I'm so proud of you for doing this, word's gonna spread that you're this kind-hearted soul. I couldn't tell, like, the vibe.
What word is gonna spread?
Right.
Is it approval or disapproval?
Right.
I didn't catch it. That's a really good question.
Yeah, because Alice is she seems always very impartial, but has her opinions.
Yeah.
So I never quite know with her.
My first read, I took this as disapproval. I made a note of, like, this is now going to be, like, a potentially sticky situation.
Right.
But I really like that perspective of it's, like, word spreading about her kindness as well.
And then we get into Tamlin apologizing.
Yes.
Which I appreciate that he realizes, like, her trauma, realizes what she's been through, and he's genuinely apologizing for what he said. And he admits that he was wrong to have said those things, and what he did to her, and that Lucien and Feyre were right, and that he'll never understand what she went through.
Yeah.
So I like that he's, you know, humbling himself, and, like, he's showing her that, yes, I am listening to you. Like, I realize I, like, can't understand, but I'm trying to, just trying to be a good guy to her.
No, I agree. That came across as, like, very humble, which is a change from dinner.
I was gonna say, it's not very Tamlin-esque.
No. As a Gryffindor. No,
yes,
I'm kidding.
As a Gryffindor, yes.
So he gives her an apology gift, and it's a paint set. with the color red.
I know.
This stuck out to me.
And I don't know if, like, it was the paint set in general, or it was the paint set combined with the red paint, or if it was just the red paint, like, that really set her off, or... Like, to me, it's probably all of it.
I think it's all of it, because part of me is like...
Because she hasn't...
Tamlin, have you been paying attention?
I know.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you tell someone you like... I don't know. If I tell someone I like LaCroix...
Right.
And then that person only ever for the rest of my life gets me LaCroix.
Right.
Even if I stop drinking LaCroix and I'm like, I haven't drank a LaCroix in 10 years. Why are you still getting me LaCroix things?
Right. It's like in their head, this is what you like. And
exactly. And they're not actually paying attention to, like, you as you are right now. That was the vibe that gave me. I agree. And he has so much going on. He's been gone a bunch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to give him the benefit of the doubt, he might not fully realize, but also part of me is like, you're her partner. Mm-hmm. You should pay attention.
I know. Well, he probably, like, similar to this, it's like if he's buying her paint supplies, has he even realized that she hasn't even gone into her room? Like, the painting room, because it's so dark and there's, like, not enough windows and light. She feels trapped in there. And, like, all the different rooms, like, because Rhysand, like, knew that, obviously, because she sent it down the bond and everything like that. So it's like, has Tamlin even noticed that she doesn't even go into that room? Not even that she doesn't paint, but she doesn't even go into that room anymore. Probably not, I'm guessing.
But this is where we lean into the part that I felt very proud of Feyre for doing.
I was so proud of her. She's
this is hard.
Yes.
It is not easy to be honest with your partner about what you're feeling when it's a directly connected to their actions.
Right. Yeah. It's not so much just this kind of like third party feeling. It's like, because they're doing this, you feel this.
Yes. And they've been through so much.
Right.
And so it's like, it's not like, husband, you didn't do the dishes and I'm frustrated. Right. It's like a very deep level of emotion. And so her talking about this it's just so brave. And she said, like, I began shaking, but for us, I made myself say. And I was like, yes, like, we've been saying this whole time, like, you need to talk to each other.
I know. And it shouldn't have taken as long as it had. But I mean, I'm glad she finally
started talking and being honest.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think more out of frustration, he said, my family was faster and stronger than you, and they were murdered quite easily. And she goes, then marry someone who can put up with this. And he's like, do you not want to marry me then? Which it's like, you don't drop that card.
No.
I was like, Feyre, you don't say that.
That's a little much, especially because it was literally like a week ago that you were supposed to get married, kind of stopped in the middle of the aisle. So it's like, obviously that's still probably fresh on his brain because you haven't really talked about it yet.
I know. It's very applicable to this situation.
Yes.
But I'm just like, I cringed a little bit. I'm like, oh, you don't pull that card?
I know.
That's such a hard card to pull. But she kind of pulls it back to, like, how she's been feeling. And she's like, of course I do. But you, Tamlin, I'm drowning. And she goes, I'm drowning. And the more you do this, the more guards, you might as well be shoving my head underwater. And so bringing it back to how she is feeling from this, which from what I've learned in therapy is what you're supposed to do. It's the I statements.
You are. And like I said, I'm proud of her. It's just, it's not that it's so.
It's a hard conversation.
It's a hard, I was going to say, it's not harsh. It's just, it's hard.
Yes.
And it's got to be so hard for Tamlin to hear it too.
Exactly.
And it's like, how receptive, like, people never want to hear bad things. So it's like, how long can you stay receptive for? How much is he actually going to listen and try to change?
But also, like, this has been building for them.
Oh, I know.
Part of me is like, Feyre, if you mentioned this the first week, it might not have built to this level.
I know, and like, things might not have gotten that bad. He might have realized it and, like, changed his ways before.
Right.
He just felt this overbearing protectiveness for you. It's
like, I've had moments in my marriage where Richard will bring something up, and I'm like, wait, you've been feeling that way that whole time? Like, why didn't you say anything? I would have stopped doing it however long ago. That's why communication is so important. But, like, I'm glad she's finally getting it out there.
I know, I am too.
But unfortunately, Tamlin throws a tantrum. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah.
Like, here, temper, I'll get into this in the next chapter. Tempers bother me.
Yeah.
I have strong feelings about people's tempers. We'll get into that in a minute. But I literally just put a sticker next to this and I'm like, WTF. Like, everything explodes, basically.
But I didn't know if that was him or her.
Oh, at this point, that's true. I jumped the gun a page. Fair enough.
Yeah. Like, I didn't really know. I was like, wait, is that...
Well, no, it says instinct taking over as his power blasted through the room.
Oh, I must have missed that. I was just like, wait, what? Power?
Gotcha.
I was like, is it exploding? Oh, yeah. That makes sense now. Mm-hmm.
Well, and this is not the first time he has, out of rage, like, just, like, burst his power out.
No. But probably with her in the room, it's the first time.
It's the first time with her in the room.
Because every other time, it's, like, something that's bad has happened to her.
Right.
She's left. And
like, when Rhys visited the Supreme Court back in Akatar. When he took her the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been several instances where he's, like, lost his cool and just, like, explodes. But it's always because, like, something bad's happened to Feyre. And now he's what's bad that's happened to her. So it's, like, it's still in line with every other time he explodes. It's just he's the cause this time. Yeah. Which sucks. Yeah. And, again, it's, like, it's super hard for him to hear, but he needed to hear it. Yeah. So.
Okay, chapter 10?
Mm-hmm. Chapter 10.
All right, I put Tamlin attempts to make up for his temper as Feyre occupies the days in the library. That is until Rhysand appears to claim his bargain once more. Yeah. So, chapter 10 starts.
Chapter 10 starts. So, we mentioned this earlier, but clearly Feyre has powers.
Yes. Like, she shielded herself.
And unintentionally, too. Yeah. It's like she kind of just bubbled herself up. I'm just, like, imagining this, like, purple bubble, like, around her of, like, wavy static. Yeah. And
basically protected herself from being very hurt because it's, like, it says it was shards of nothing, a shell of a room. Like, that is serious damage. Right. Like, a piece of wood could have flown into her. Right.
And I didn't realize that was, like, part of Tamlin's power. Like, I always just assumed it was, like, shape-shifting. Yeah. And, like, all the other times where they would talk about the room exploding, I just assumed he shifted. He was, like, throwing things.
Yeah. I wonder if that's unique to him or if that's the High Lord thing.
I don't know. Because, yeah, when it's like, he exploded everything, I was like, everything just, like, literally explodes. It's not so much him, like, throwing everything. So I was like, was that what was happening in the book, like, before? And I just assumed it was him kind of, like, getting mad, throwing things. Yeah. Versus, like, an actual explosion of power. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm imagining, like, a scream and then just, like,
everything
things shattering.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, like, thank goodness she protected herself. Yep. But he is immediately in shock about what he did.
Oh, for sure. Which, as he should be.
Yes. I'm very bothered by his response, though. Yeah? Yes, he's saying the words, I'm sorry. But, and maybe back to my media watching, maybe I've seen too many true crime documentaries about abusive relationships. Maybe that's what's happening in my brain. But it feels like he's low-key gaslighting her. Because it's like, he's like, I'm sorry, please, like, just wanting to touch her. And he's like, today, let's forget it. Let's just move past it. I can't control it sometimes. The rage. And it's like, no, you can control it. You can. You need to do better. Right. And, like, no, you can't just pretend it didn't happen and move on with your life. Like, it just, that doesn't feel like a real apology to me. Yeah. Like, I think he's horrified by what he did. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, for sure. But that just didn't feel like a genuine apology. It felt like when a child makes a mistake and they don't want to deal with the consequences of that mistake, and so they try to just pretend it didn't happen. And it's like, you have to learn, like, no, there are consequences to your actions. You can't just, like, shove it down and pretend you didn't make a mistake.
And, like, that's kind of what I was feeling, but then it goes into basically, so he's profusely apologizing, but then, you know, right away there's less escorts. He lets her go out of the manor on horseback, like, by herself. And I was like, so it was, like, to me, then I'm like, okay, it is genuine because he's actually acting on the words that he spoke. They weren't just words. So I was like, I see him making an effort, like, I know it will take time. He's not perfect. Like, I'm sure there'll be slip-ups.
Yeah.
But, like, clearly the next day, like, he genuinely tried to, like, see what he was doing wrong and, like, change it. Well, so to me, that, I was like, okay, this is a work in progress.
Fair. Yeah. But having read this group of chapters and functioning off that knowledge, within a chapter, they're all back because he's pissed. Oh, I know.
But I'm just saying, like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is a genuine apology because he's acting on it. So, and again, like I said, like, there could be slip-ups in the future. Right. But I see that he's trying, which is this huge step from where he was, 2 days ago. Right. So, because she had that hard conversation, he apologized. He's acting on it. So I was like, this is what should happen. Yes. So, clearly, I know in the next, like, it changes.
In the next chapter, that's not true. But, like, yes, but, like, I hear you.
In this chapter, it is.
Yeah. At one point, though, while he's in apology mode, I thought this was interesting. He said, I'll try to be better. Please give me more time. Let me get through this, please. And she said, get through what? I wanted to ask. And I was like, I'm kind of feeling the same thing. Yeah. It's like, what are you dealing with right now? Like, obviously, we have shared trauma from under the mountain. But, like, why are you so intense right this minute? He's not telling her anything.
I know. I don't like that he doesn't open up about any of his problems. He just keeps, like, focusing on her problems, which she needs to deal with. And it's like,
and then taking it out on her.
I know. It's like, you both have to. Right. And she says, I don't know if she says this or she's thinking this, but she says, like, a protector. That's who he was and would always be. What I had wanted when I was cold and hard and joyless, what I had needed to melt the ice of bitter years on the cusp of starvation. I didn't have the nerve to wonder what I wanted or needed now, who I had become. And, like, I think this happens to most of us, you know? Yeah. It's like we change without even realizing it and think we want, like, what was good for us then, but not really wanting to believe that it may no longer be good for us. Yeah. And just, like, seeing how he's dealing with everything, how they're acting, because it's like they're great at, like, the physical, but, like, physical touch. Yeah. But emotionally and, like, verbally communicating, they just seem to be falling short on. And it's like she's aware of this, and yet it's, I feel like we talked about this maybe, like, in a mini or, like, last season, basically how it's, like, that first true love, like, high school boyfriend kind of thing.
Yeah, we talked about this in the Tamlin mini.
Yeah, so basically, like, you go away to college, and it's like you I don't know, like,
you lose that. Like, you're no longer right for each other. You're not actually connected anymore. You don't have shared vision, shared goals, and it's like no one.
You've kind of grown into your own person,
right?
Too.
Like, no one's inherently done anything wrong, but it's like you're just not working for each other, right? And it's like, I wonder if that's what's going on in her brain right here.
I feel like it must be, because it's like she realizes this, but she's like, I didn't want to question it. Yeah. And it's like, if you're trying not to question it, you know something's wrong.
Right. And at one point she said, like, things were good enough that I didn't dare bring it up. Yeah. And it's like that good enough term, it's like, no, like, that's not what life should be.
No, that's not what love should be either.
It's not what love should be, exactly. So I made a note in here that Famlin is that their couple name?
I guess.
Feyre and Tamlin, you can just see how disconnected they are. Yeah. Like, they're just...
Yeah, and, like, it's not enough to, like, have good physical connection. Right. Because that's easy. That's the easy part. Like, you know, having sex, kissing, walking the gardens together. Like, that's easy, but it's everything else that's hard. So that can't be enough for a relationship.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, and it's like... neither of them are growing. No. Like, I think that's the other thing.
I think so.
It's like, I think people go, as you said, they as time passes, maybe they become different and they become a different person, and so that changes the relationship. But it's like a question of, like, are you guys, like, still, like, growing together? Are you growing closer together? Or are you just, like, dying? Yeah. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. So it's like, since neither of them seem to be, like, moving, and it feels like they're just continuing to drift apart, it's like, it's just it's really sad to see how disconnected they've become.
And I think maybe if they both would be open about talking about their trauma,
I think it could help dramatically.
I think they'd both be over this so much quicker. It's like it's been 3 months and neither of you have spoken to anybody about it.
Right.
How can you not talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least do some kind of even if you want to write in a journal, like for yourself. Yeah. It's like they're not getting any of these thoughts out.
Right.
So,
something else I noticed though, you mentioned the physical aspect. Mm-hmm. So Feyre wakes up to like voices outside of her door.
Yep.
And she says something, and she like got up and realized she was naked, and she said, "Thanks to Tamlin, my clothes had been shredded and flung across the other side of the room." And I was like, stop shredding her clothes. For the love of God, stop shredding her clothes. Here's the thing. It happens once, fun. Yep. Okay? Whatever. Don't make it a normal thing. Come on.
They've got the tithe.
Come up with something new, Tamlin.
They're just raking in that money. They can buy plenty of lingerie.
Oh my God, I was like, stop shredding them. It bothered me. Anyway.
That's funny. But so right after that, so Rhys has showed up to take her because it's already been 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Which, Tamlin, when you're gone for a week, it comes by really quick.
It comes real quick.
But Rhys basically takes one look at her and is just like, what the heck has happened to you?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like clear that she has lost a significant amount of weight, and I mean, I assume it's probably because she's depressed. She's throwing up every night. Like,
the first thing he says is, "Are you running low on food here?"
Right.
Which it's like, clearly they're not. So it's like, why are you not eating?
Right.
And so I appreciate. It's like, it's funny. It's like someone who she's not in a relationship with, who hasn't seen her in 3 weeks, takes one look at her and is like, what's going on here?
Yeah, like he clearly realizes there's a problem.
Is there most of the time.
Right.
And is like not saying anything, not doing anything. He's very oblivious.
Yeah. So Rhys takes her back to the night court, just as things like we're starting to get a little bit back to normal, as you said.
Tamlin, I thought, was interesting in this. Feyre goes back in to get dressed, and she's talking with Tamlin, and I thought their like conversation was interesting.
Yeah.
Because she's basically just like, you know, maybe like we should try to mend things. And he's like, I'll start mending things the day he releases you from your bargain. And she's like, well, I'm like, maybe that's the reason he's keeping the bargain.
Right.
And he kind of just totally blows her off. And I'm just like, this is very frustrating.
I know. But also it makes me mad. It's like, you didn't bring this conversation up the whole time.
What have you been doing for the last 3 weeks?
It's like you decided to wait till the minute Rhys arrives to like ask the question, oh, like maybe we should like try to partner with him or like work with him or whatever. Yeah. I was like, really, Feyre? That's a horrible plan. Like, he's pissed now because Rhys is here.
Yeah.
Clearly he's not going to agree to anything.
Right.
Like, his logic is not there right now. It's all emotion.
Rage.
So, yeah.
But opposite of Tamlin being very emotional, Feyre said, I'd had enough fighting and snarling, and going back to that open, serene place atop that mountain, it seemed better than hiding in the library. And I'm like, she doesn't even want to be there anymore. She just wants out.
It just sounds miserable.
It really does. But it's like, Zach, can you imagine not wanting to be in the same home as the person that you, like, love?
No.
Like, it's so sad.
It's terrible.
So, I just made a note of, like, wait, like, where is the fire?
Yeah.
Like, she's not even, like, being sassy with Rhys.
No.
It's just, like, nothing.
No.
Oh, I thought the end of this was interesting, though. So, Tamlin, said to Rhys, he says, you end her bargain right here, right now, and I'll give you anything you want. Anything. And Rhysand, it says, he merely raised a brow. I already have everything I want. And then he leaves. And I'm just like, woo! Like, it's just intense. Yeah. Oh, in case you were wondering, this is another cranky chapter. Mostly because of the shredding of the nightgown. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, that was chapter 10. And now chapter 11?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This one I put, while staying at the night court, Rhys tries to help Feyre heal. This is a feels.
This is definitely a feels. What are your kind of overall first thoughts?
I loved, and this is like, I'm a very emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, of course.
Yes.
So I really appreciate, I respond to emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if someone is just talking to me and they're really, like, deadpan, I'm like, I don't know how to talk to this person.
Right.
I like to feed off of other people's emotions. I appreciated how Rhysand came into this. He dropped the cool exterior,
mm-hmm.
and he came in with concern.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like something a friend would do.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm not gonna pretend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, and I think it showcased their friendship that formed under the mountain.
Yeah, and he's trying to just kind of do anything to get her to have a spark of life.
Yes.
Like, you can clearly see how worried, like, he actually is about her, mm-hmm. just because she has no bite, there's no teasing, and her clothes are, like, hanging on her.
He's trying so hard to, like, coax anything out of her.
I know, and she's just, like, not responding to it. So you know it's bad, because she's always had this spark, like, of, something against him, but nothing right now.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was funny he tried to, like, ask sideways
mm-hmm.
what happened.
Right.
Because he's like, I felt a spike of fear this month through our lovely bond. Anything exciting happen at the Wondrous Spring Court? And it's like, he wants to know, but he's trying to, like,
play it cool.
Mm-hmm. And she kind of, like, blew it off. She's like, if you know, why even ask about it?
Mm-hmm.
And this quote just, like, it hurt me. He said, because these days, all I hear through that bond is nothing, silence. Even with your shields up, rather impressively most of the time, I should be able to feel you, and yet I don't. Sometimes I'll tug on the bond only to make sure you're still alive.
Yeah, that got me. I was like, man, she is, like, clearly just dead inside right now.
And then I loved this description. It said, darkness guttered. And I was like, ooh. Like, there's just a lot happening right now.
I know. There's, yes, poor Farah, but also I'm like, you need to deal with your feelings. You can't just bottle it in. Like, you killed 2 innocent people, and it is clearly wreaking havoc on you. Yeah. You need to talk about it. You need to do something about it.
And it's like she knows she does, because she says in these chapters, like, 10 times, I feel like I wanted to do it, but I didn't have the energy. Yeah. Or, like, I didn't feel the need to talk. And it's like, it's like you have the wherewithal to understand you're in this pit.
Right.
But she just can't pull herself out of it at all.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that's like what depression does. It's like you have great intentions, great thoughts, but you can't find the motivation to do anything.
Yeah. And it's sad, but it's heartwarming that in these moments, Rhysand is trying to pull her out of it.
Yeah. And then, we get a little further along, and Rhys is basically spilling his guts, asking Farah for help. And she doesn't even have it in her to say anything.
I know.
I was like, oh my gosh. She said, I was a prisoner in her court for nearly 50 years. I was tortured and beaten and fucked until only telling myself who I was, what I had to protect, kept me from trying to find a way to end it. Please help me keep that from happening again. To Prithian.
The vulnerability in that moment.
I was in awe. I was like,
Yeah.
how can he be so vulnerable with this person that, first off, is just, like, completely, like, a ghost right now. They're not even, there's zero response, zero anything. And he doesn't even know her either. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I know they had their bonding under the mountain and everything, but to confess, like, that much feeling to somebody is a lot.
It's very brave on his part.
Yeah.
But I also think it goes back to the just trying to help her.
Right.
To coax her out, because it's like he tried being sassy. He tried making her angry. And now he's trying to, like, emotionally connect with her and see if that will help.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the friendship he's trying to bring to this moment with her.
And I'm also, it just reminds me of, what he said when they were leaving under the mountain about how, like, his intention, or, like, the reason he did everything was so that he'd be, like, on the right side of history.
Yeah.
And this kind of, it reiterates that. It's kind of like he wants to save Prithian. Granted, we don't really know exactly what is going to happen. Like, he said war earlier on, but we don't really know, enough about that. But I just like that it wasn't, like, he clearly didn't just say that. Like, he really means it, and it's showing in other ways that he's talking.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. And then Feyre's, like, response to this, like, she doesn't say anything, basically, but what she thought, she said, but Tamlin had made exceptions. He'd lightened the guard's presence, allowed me to roam a bit more freely. He was trying. We were trying. I wouldn't jeopardize that. I just made a note, like, she is just such a good partner. She is a way better partner than Tamlin's been to her. But, like, she is such a good partner. Like, that is something, like, in a way, I wish she would respond to Rhysand's, like, friendship in that moment.
Yeah.
But, like, she is in a relationship with Tamlin. And her ability to prioritize that partnership, I think, is something that's really admirable. It's something that, like, I'll be honest, I've had a hard time doing before, where I'm like, you're fine, this is right. And it's like, no, you need to prioritize me. And, like, that's something that we've been, like, asking of Tamlin to do. And it's like, I don't know, it's cool seeing her behave that way also.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, because that's what she wanted. She wanted less restrictions, and, you know, he apologized, and he was acting how he said he would. And so she's recognizing that. Yeah. It's not just like, oh, well, he's been crappy the past 3 months. So
right. It's like, we're trying.
She's like, I had the hard conversation. He apologized, and he's acting on it. So I appreciate that she is putting her relationship with Tamlin first.
Yes. Over
a friendship with someone that, you know, she has to spend a week, a month with.
Yeah. At this point, it makes sense, her reaction.
It does. And Rhys also, he reminds her that, you know, by if she lets herself, like, fall apart, then Amarantha wins. And I like that he's reminding her of that. Because it's like, even if she's, like, rejecting his plea of friendship and, like, his emotional vulnerability, like, this should be something that really speaks to her.
Yeah. Like, let me read you a few more quotes from this section, though. Like, this was ridiculous. At one point, so, like, they were separated for a while, because it was like, after that he left for the week, he came back and he just saw her again and tried to interact, and he said, tell me what to do to help you. Months and months and you're still a ghost. Does no one there ask what the hell's happening? Does your High Lord simply not care? And she said, he's giving me space to sort it out. And he goes, let me help you. We went through enough under the mountain. She wins. That bitch wins if you let yourself fall apart. It's like, it's the pep talk we all need.
Yes.
I'm like, I just, again, it just felt very vulnerable. It felt like him being a very good friend to her. And it stuck out to me that he's asking. He's like, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do to help you. Yeah. And I'm like, Tamlin has not asked her that.
No.
And again, drawing in a very, like, obviously that's what this book is doing, right? Is drawing these parallels between the two of them. You know, you start to see, like you mentioned at the beginning of this, how differently she is treated and talked to at the Night Court, aka just Rhys's house now, versus in the Spring Court.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like Tamlin thinks he knows what's best for her. Yeah. And he's also just that protector. Like, that's who he is. Yeah. And so he feels a responsibility to act a certain way, regardless of what Feyre is thinking. Whereas I think Rhysand, he doesn't know Feyre as well either. And so to him, he's probably like, well, if I ask, then, you know, maybe I'll figure it out. Whereas I think Tamlin's still thinking of her as this human that he met, not this new Feyre that he really didn't get to know the new Feyre under the mountain, because he didn't interact with her the whole time. Yeah. You know, she was just trapped in her cell, and he sat there and was stoic the whole time. Right. So
he's almost like handicapped by their relationship and helping her. That's so interesting. Yeah. One other random thing that stuck out to me is they were doing more of the lessons. And she did really well. Like, she read the sentences right away. She did the mind stuff right away. And it said, he blinked. You practice. And it says, I rose from the table and walked away. I had nothing better to do. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like the way that is. It's like, you had nothing better to do than, like, I mean, granted, I'm very appreciative that you're learning to read and write. Like, I think it's awesome. But you had nothing better to do. It's like, I don't know, maybe you could try to replan your wedding. Maybe you could try to do anything. Kind of. It's like,
that's the best thing you have to do at home.
Right.
In the Spring Court.
With the man you love.
That's the best thing. You have nothing else to do. And then another line over here that stuck out. It said, days passed and I didn't. I'm like, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
She just feels very stagnant, and I don't like it.
I agree.
So Pharaoh returns from the night court, and things go back to how they were. So Sentry's back in full force to watch her.
Yes. Just before that, though. Mm-hmm. So right before she leaves, the High Lord and her have that exchange. Mm-hmm. And this stuck out. It said, the High Lord of the Night Court honestly looked relieved at the sight of it, of that wrath that made me want to rage and burn. Because she, like, snapped at him.
Oh, yeah.
And it said, a feeling for once, not like that hollow cold and silence. And the thoughts of returning to that manor with the sentries and the patrols and the secrets, I sank back into my chair. And it just, like, again, I made the note of, like, he did it. Like, he's been harassing her for a week, but, like, he finally, like, pulled a feeling out of her, which is good. But it's sad that she's, like, dreading going home.
I know.
So
I feel like she's just not happy anywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's like she doesn't want to be bothered while she's in the night court. Like, she doesn't want to deal with Breezanne's taunting and teasing. Like, she just wants to sit there, like, enjoy the open air, and, like, that's it. But then it's like she doesn't want to go back and do anything at, like, the spring court either. It's like you just this empty shell. It's really all she is. It's so sad.
It is. And Reese's final words to her are, fight it. Yeah. And then she's back, like you said. Sentries in full force.
Yeah, so I was like, well, that lasted all of
5 minutes.
5 minutes, I know. And it's like, I get, like, Tamlin's pissed because she was taken again. But I was like, are you just going to be, like, in this continuous cycle where it's like, she gets back and you're super pissed that she left, so you're, like, super overprotective. And then it's like, you're gone for a week, and then the following week it's like, you apologize, you realize what you did, and you, like, kind of loosen things up. So it's like, are you really only going to have, like, one good week out of every month?
He is so deeply emotionally immature. That's why he has a temper. That's why he throws, for lack of a better word, these tantrums. Like, it's unacceptable to put her through these cycles over and over. Yeah. It is a form of emotional abuse. Like, it is. Like, to pull someone back and forth and back and forth.
And it's not good for him either. It's like, he's not going to be able to work through his trauma if he's constantly concerned about, like, Reese taking her coming back, what happened over there. Like, it's not good for him either. Yeah.
But it's like, he's not even seeing that it's the problem.
No, not at all.
Like, he'll apologize for snapping. But, again, I think it's that idea of, like, what is an apology? Like, an apology is saying you're sorry and not doing it anymore. Right. Like, that's what an apology is.
Yeah, and he's not.
Clearly. He's not. It's just back around and around and around. And it's painful to watch. Yeah. It's red flag city.
Chapter 12.
All right, the last chapter of today.
Oh, man.
All right, we got another cranky sticker. Slash angry. This one's a bit more angry.
I feel like this is like an in my feels chapter.
Oh, was this an in your feels? Yeah. Fair enough.
For me.
I was
slash angry. Slash angry. Yes.
An angry feel. So Tamlin's protectiveness grows at the spring court, leading him to a decision that will send Feyre reeling and, ironically, towards freedom.
This chapter it's a lot.
It is a lot. Can I tell you my favorite line at the very beginning?
Please.
This happened, like, within the first page. And she's just, like, going through the motions, basically. And she says, I was burning through books every day, stories about people and places I'd never heard of. They were perhaps the only thing that kept me from teetering into utter despair. And just, like, thank you for books.
I know.
It just, like, that brought, especially, like, obviously we're doing a podcast about a book series that deeply affected us. We love books and reading so much. Yep. And, like, I think back on, like, books that got me through things. Like, we've talked about how Outlander got me through this, like, terrible breakup in 2014. And it's like you can connect books to moments and, like, how they healed you. And this quote gave me a lot of feels.
Yeah. Well, I can appreciate it. Like, I love that, you know, Sarah J. Maas is so insightful in that, like, she's writing a book and she's writing about people that read books to heal themselves. Like, it's oh gosh, what's the word? Oh, I don't know. Like,
Inception?
Yeah. Yeah, basically. drop that little nugget and it like goes back up 3 layers. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. But no, I read that and I was like, oh, she's reading. Like, that's, those are her friends. Like, that's, which, I mean, it's sad because I hate that you don't actually have real friends. But I so appreciate that because it's like readers, people that like to read have like probably all been through that at one point in time where it's like, you felt like you didn't have anybody, but like you can connect with this character and this experience, and like that just pulls you through.
Yes. And it's like, in a way, I feel like that about these books.
Oh, I know. These books, especially because we read these during pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
The year of the pandemic. So we read all of Sarah J. Maas's books during the pandemic.
Her books
it got us through.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. Like, these books revived us from a pandemic state.
Yeah.
Oh, so anyway.
No, I appreciate
That's not connected to the actual content of what we're reading.
But it's so important.
It is.
But before like all the feelsy stuff.
Yes.
We had talked earlier about how Feyre's powers are manifesting.
Yes.
And this is the chapter where Tamlin's power seems to manifest. Like, Tamlin, I guess him and Ianthe are walking, like, back, and Lucian actually sees her, like, release the claws or whatever, however they come out, I don't really know. And just from, like, her getting mad, so, because she's being excluded from conversation, so it's, like, clearly that apology is not being acted upon. And Lucian, like, sees this, he tells her to follow him.
Yeah. I got Big Brother vibes here.
Well, this is, like, reaffirming, like, I love Lucian. I love, like, he sees Feyre. Like, he is not oblivious to the fact that, like, she is suffering and, like, not moving past this stuff, and, like, that Tamlin is, like, smothering her with, like, this overprotectiveness, and he is, like, trying to find the balance, which, like, I can super respect, because it's, like, he's Tamlin's number one. Yeah. So he has to respect the High Lord because it, you know, has implications for everyone in the Spring Court. And it's like, if he's disobeying, everyone can disobey. So it's like, he has to obey. But then he also is friends with Tara. He's friends with Feyre and big brother-ish to Feyre. So he's trying to, like, look out for her and, like, really try to do what he can for her. So it's like, he's like, I'm going to speak to Tamlin, like, on your behalf. I'm going to really try to, like, see if we can do something about, like, letting you, like, train, letting you, like, go out and, like, not be so chaperoned all the time. So it's like, I love that Lucian is, like, aware at least, and he's, like, trying as much as he can, because he's that fine balance. It's like, you can't,
he's caught between a rock and a hard place.
Right, he is, but he's doing what he can, which I appreciate.
I agree. And then it, like, alludes to when he brings it up later that night, and Tamlin just, like, completely blew her off. Or, sorry, no. Tamlin just completely blew Lucian off, essentially.
And it's also because Ianthe's, like, pushing...
I think it's interesting. He's listening to Ianthe more than Lucian.
I do, too. And it's like, Ianthe's this high priestess, whereas Lucian is, like, your emissary, and, like, you fought beside him before.
You went through the 50 years of Amarantha's reign together.
Right.
Like, Ianthe was off doing God knows what. Like,
I know.
I feel like you should trust Lucian more than Ianthe.
That's why I was really surprised. And I was also, like, really surprised that Ianthe is pushing so hard oppositely. It's like, you could just be like, well, we can train her, but we can, like, do it discreetly. Like, let's find a place where it's, like, secluded. Like, you can magic it so nobody can see. Like, all these things. But she's like, no, like, no training at all. She's like, that's not what she needs to be doing. She should just be picking out colors and decorating and, like, all these things. So I just thought it was interesting that, like, Tamlin sides with Ianthe over Lucian.
So we kind of get to the next day, and Tamlin's leaving again. Yep. And Feyre asks to go with him.
Like, outright, for the first time. Which, I was also like, wait, so you've been trapped for, like, 3 to 4 months-ish in this house, saying you can't do anything, Tamlin doesn't let you do anything, but you've never actually asked him.
Yeah. Well, it might have been like she did at the beginning, and then she just gave up and hasn't done it in a really long time, but...
I thought she said this was the first time that she's explicitly asked him, like, to come with.
Oh gosh, did it say that?
I think so. Where?
I believe you.
I just... No, where is it?
Oh, no, it says, I never asked it outright. Yeah. But, no, you're totally right.
And I was like, you've been here this whole time complaining and whining. And it's like, I have, like, maybe, like, 2% less, like, sad feelings towards you right now, because If you're not even gonna, like, I understand.
I think what she asked specifically, though, was, can I come with you?
Right.
So not like, can she leave the house? I think she's asked that.
Yes. But can I go with you? That's a whole different question, because it's like, then she would be under his protection. She'd be with him. All these thoughts in my head, I'm just like, it makes me so mad. I was like, you cannot be genuinely mad with somebody if you've never asked them for something. Like, especially guys. Guys are so dumb.
They are dumb.
They need to be explicitly asked every question.
Yes.
And you're not asking him. You're assuming.
But is it because he said no to so many other things that it's like, why bother ask for this?
Maybe, but you'd think at least initially she would have been asking, like, can I come with you on these things? I don't know. When I read that, it made me mad. I was like, Farrah, now I don't have nearly as much sympathy for you because you didn't even ask to go.
I know, but also,
like, yes, he should have known. Yes, it's implied.
Well, I'm not even going to go into, like, he should have known thing.
Right.
I can see it being, like, he has said no and pushed her down in so many other ways that she just lost the will to ask for things.
Yeah.
I can see that happening very quickly.
Yes.
And so it's like, I wonder if it's a response to him being so intense from the very beginning. It's like, I won't even bother asking because I know what the answer is going to be because it's all he ever says anymore, and that's that. So I don't know if it's just like she just didn't ask. I wonder if it's like in response to his behavior.
I'm sure. But again, this is me and my like logical like idealist.
You're like, ask the question, Farrah.
If you don't ask, you're never gonna get it.
That's
just my brain being like annoyed right there.
Yeah.
But anyways, so
but he says no basically because there's threats,
right?
And I think she made a fair point. She said there will always be some threat. There will always be some conflict or enemy or something that keeps me in here. And I'm like, that's true.
It's true. Like, especially with. Like, fairies are immortal. Like, there has always been some kind of something happening. Like, there's always going to be an event, especially if you're worried about one of 6 other High Lords finding out that you have power. Like, there's always going to be something happening where you're going to be stuck there.
And she said something, or she thought it, I guess, that just stuck out to me as, like, a potential... We call this episode the turning point. It felt like a turning point for her. She said, I was not the human girl who needed coddling and pampering, who wanted luxury and easiness. I didn't know how to go back to craving those things, to being docile. So it's almost like she's starting to realize in this moment, I cannot live like this.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like...
So she fights Tamlin about it.
Yeah. Well, that was like similar to like chapter 10 when she was talking about how he's a protector and like that's what she wanted initially, but it's like now she didn't. So it's like she's realizing this, like this whole. That's why this whole section is called like
the turning point.
Yeah. But yeah, what you just said, I totally agree.
So she's like following him and fighting him, and he locks her in there.
I can't.
We all would lose our shit.
Well, at first it's like, wait, what? And because she was like,
who do you think you are?
Well, so she initially thinks she shielded herself like she did before.
Right.
She's like, did I just magic myself into like trapped in my own house? Like what? Because that would be my initial reaction. I'm like, what did I just do to myself? Like, how did I manage?
Because it's so unfathomable.
Right. Because it's like she's so pissed, and so it's like her emotions are high. So like that's what happened before. Like the shield just appeared. So she's like, did I just like magically trap myself inside? Like dumb me. And she's like, wait a second. No, still can't go out. And like Lucian tells her, he's like, basically, Tamlin's magicked you in. Everybody else can come and go. But you can't leave.
And he tells her to just be patient. And I'm like, no! She doesn't need to be patient.
No.
It's unacceptable.
I was like,
unacceptable.
No. I mean, if you're going to magic... Okay, like, I know the whole thing is wrong. But I'm just saying, if you're going to magic someone to stay... Why wouldn't you just do your whole compound? Why can't she just wander the gardens? Like, she physically can't even leave the house. She is stuck inside. And
because he does not care.
We all know how much she hates being inside. I was like, you could at least,
He is so obsessed with her staying alive that he has completely disregarded every other need she has.
Every other, like, want and desire she has, too. It's like, okay, this is not, like... the basic needs anymore. This is like her emotional well-being and like emotional state.
But it's like in even her basic needs. It's like the Pavlov's hierarchy of needs. It's like if you can't even get those basic needs met, you can't even start to meet all those other ones. And he's stealing everything at the bottom of the pyramid.
I can't.
I just...
I know.
Like,
I was like,
no.
Tamlin, I was like really trying to be on your side about everything,
Yes.
and like really trying to think through everything. This is where I was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, cause if you were gonna magic her into,
yeah.
it should be the whole estate. Like, the
Yeah.
fact that he just trapped her in a house where she already hates half the rooms in the house because
Yeah.
they're too, like, claustrophobic for her. I was like, you literally have zero concern for her well-being. It's
Yeah.
just what you think of her.
Yeah.
And, like, who she used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so mad at this point.
So unacceptable.
I know.
And then she goes into a full-on panic attack because, like, what else is she gonna do when she's trapped in a space based off of what she came out of?
I know. I feel like it's, like, anxiety, rage, despair. It's, like, I don't even know, like, I know, I've never had a panic attack personally, so, like, I don't know all the feelings that get encompassed.
This feels like a panic attack.
It feels like a panic attack, but I was like, I feel like it's almost like that combined with something more. Like, I don't even know, like, what other kind of, like, fit you could, like, combine it with.
I mean, she's having just, like, this insane emotional experience.
I know.
Which I don't blame her.
She's literally ensconced in a cocoon of darkness and fire and ice and wind. A cocoon that melted the ring off my finger until the golden ore dropped away into the void, the emerald tumbling after it.
That's insane.
I'm just, like, picturing, like, again, always going back to Harry Potter.
It's a good frame of reference.
I know. You know, when Voldemort is, like, being reborn out of the big cauldron?
Oh.
Like, that's what I'm picturing. Like, she's, like, cocooned, and, like, there's all this, like, fire and, like, ice and, like, all these colors around her, almost, like, cocooned around her, and then she's just, like, ugh. It's, like, an explosion of that.
Yeah.
But that, like, that's my, like, visual reference of, like, what I see happening around her.
Mm-hmm. It's so intense. She's like, I couldn't get out. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so much.
I know.
And then it said, someone was shouting my name from far away. Alice, Alice. And, like, she couldn't hear her. Like, there was literally, like, it's not, obviously she's Fae. So, like, it's not a normal panic attack.
No.
There's magic involved.
Right.
And it's so much.
Which is why I felt like there was, like, another level. To, like, I couldn't just call it
totally
a panic attack.
Is.
It's like Fae magic panic attack.
It's magical.
Magical panic attacks. Great.
Yeah, which it's like, that's so great.
I know.
And so I was like raging at this point. Because for me, you said this was your moment. When he exploded in the room, that was my first, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Moment. This was the, oh no.
Yep.
Oh no, we're done. Moment. Like, I don't care what happens next. I am done.
Yeah. And then, surprisingly, Moore is the one.
Yes!
That, like, comes to her rescue. And, like, I thought it was interesting, because, again, Alice, the Mrs. Potts character, who I've never, like, she's always impartial and is, like, but, like, pro-Farah at the same time. She says, please take care of her. And I was just, like,
I think Alice even knows at this point.
I think she does, and that's why I'm always like, was she, like, saying that, like, Farah's, like, word will spread about Farah being good, or, like, because I think she just has, like, such high respect for Farah, and so she's genuinely worried about her well-being. I don't really think she cares at this point, like, about Tamlin or Lucian or the Spring Court. It's more just, like, Farah. So I like that, you know, she wants Moore to take care of her, and I think she knows that she will.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
And so Moore takes her out of there, and she says, do you think his shield would keep us from you? Rhys shattered it with half a thought. And I just, again, to speak of their friendship, I just, like, he heard what happened, and, like, immediately, like, how quickly did Moore get there?
Yeah.
Like, that was an immediate response.
Yeah, she literally was her ball of, like, flame, ice, wind.
Moore's there, magically.
I know, just, like, instantaneously.
Pretty much. So, it's just, again, I think I just really appreciate him jumping in and helping her, even though, like, he's not getting anything out of it. Like, she's not nice to him.
No.
And so it's not. Like,
she doesn't even respond to him half the time.
Right.
So, and I like that, like, Moore's telling her, you're free. Not safe, not protected, free.
I put sob next to that.
Just the fact that she has to, like, think that.
Yeah.
that it's okay. It's not like I'm safe. It's not I'm protected. I am free.
Yeah.
Because she felt so caged and trapped that it didn't even matter if she was protected.
Yes.
Or, safe.
Because I think that was the problem under the mountain.
Right.
It was her lack of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, there was this guise of freedom, but in reality, she just stepped into a different, mountain.
Yeah.
And she's, in this moment, she's genuinely out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the last thing, so Moore tells, Reese, she's like, I did everything by the book. And I was like, I don't know really what that means. I'm sure there's more to come on that.
Political related activities.
Something. But I was just like, oh, I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'm glad you did everything by the book.
Right.
Because obviously, there's probably negative repercussions that could come with something like that. Because I'm assuming, you can't just steal people away from other courts. I'm assuming it has something to do with that.
Well, she's his fiance.
Yeah.
It's
kind of a big deal.
It's like you taking the Queen of England and what else? What do you expect?
Yeah. So this was very hard to not continue reading.
Yeah.
After this page, I was like, is Farrah okay? What's gonna happen with Tamlin? What's gonna happen with Rhysand? I'm glad Moore is this friend that she didn't really even know she had needed. So yeah, I'm very curious the relationships that are gonna change or be affected by all of this.
Yeah, everything is so different at this point.
It's the turning point.
It's the turning point. It's crazy. Just to think back to just before the mountain, her relationship with Tamlin and Lucien and how
Rhysand even.
And then how just the mountain changed everything and how they're all such different people right now.
Right.
These are not the same people we met in ACOTAR.
No. And it's so interesting because it's Rhysand was under the mountain for 50 years.
Yeah.
Tamlin and Lucien and Farrah were under the mountain for 3 months.
Yep.
Can you imagine if they had actually been there for 50 years, how bad Tamlin and Lucien... Well, Lucien not so much. I feel like he's fine. But Tamlin was there for 3 months.
Yeah.
What if he had been there for 50 years? How crazy would he have been after 50 years? It's Rhys is he's still caring. He's still considerate. He's cares about what's going on with Farrah and her life and her thoughts and emotions.
I mean, we've only interacted with him twice, but that's what's coming across.
Right. And it's more than how Tamlin's responding. And he was he was never Amaranth's whore. He just sat there stoically. So I'm just amazed at the responses versus the actual time spent suffering under the mountain.
Yeah.
So
no, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I feel we're hit these are the heavy hitters.
I know. This was a chunk of heaviness.
Yes, but so important.
I know.
To this story.
So
all right. So next week we're gonna do chapters 13 through 16.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna say the name of it either.
Okay.
So we'll see you next week for more. Yeah. I hope it gets better.
I know. Don't forget to follow us if you're not already on Instagram. We're at Fairies and Fangirls.
And we'll talk more later.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to A Court of Fairies and Fangirls, a Sarah J. Maas fan podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and let us know what you think.
You can find us on Instagram at Fairies and Fangirls. Jump in on the conversation, and we look forward to chatting with you more next week. Bye.
Bye.